welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So if you're not aware, the other day the official championship team of the season was actually released. So in today's video, guys, we're going to be going ahead and having a look at it and basically having a discussion whether we agree with it or not, because let's say there are a couple of controversial picks in there. I'd be very interested to hear what your guys' opinions are on the players who have been selected into this championship team of the season. First of all, I'm not sure why they're picking this team of the season now. You know, we've still got quite a bit of the season to go and play. Like, if we see a striker bag 10 goals from now until the end of the season, surely they'll be able to force their way into it. But for some reason, they've gone ahead and announced the team of the season the other day. So in today's video, guys, we're going to be going ahead and having a look over it. And yeah, it's an interesting one. And of course, this week in the championship, we also had some midweek action going on. So get your comments in the comments down below as to how your team played in midweek. We had quite a few pretty good results. You know, Birmingham picked up a fantastic away victory at Bolton that sees them go out of the relegation zone for the time being. Sheff Wednesday also continued their impressive run of form with a 3-1 away victory over Sunderland. My team Preston went up against Derby, and it's fair to say that didn't go to plan. But anyway, like I said, let me know down below how your team got on in midweek. So before we go ahead and look at the actual team of the season which has been announced, what I thought we'd do is, if you cast your mind back about a month ago, I did a video where I let you guys go ahead and vote on who you thought should make it into the team of the season. So this video was made around about early February, I believe, and I went ahead and gave my team of the season, and you guys also went ahead and gave your team of the season. So first of all, looking over my team, this is who I went for in February. As we can see there, we've got Scott Carson in goal. In my opinion, at that point, he'd probably been the best goalkeeper in the championship. A steady back four. That midfield four has just been ridiculous this year. Jota, Neves, Maddison, and Adoma. And then my front two were Vidra and Leon Clark. So that's the team who, in early February, I thought deserved to get into the team of the year. This is who you guys voted for. As you can see, the team that you guys voted for was actually very similar to mine. There weren't too many changes in this, of course. You guys went ahead and voted for Sam Johnson instead of Scott Carson. I think that's a solid shout. Both of them had been very good this season. Then we also changed two defenders. You guys went ahead and voted for Barry Douglas and Willy Bolly from Wolves. And then as a striker, you guys went ahead and voted for Leo Bonatini over Leon Clark. So that's the team that you guys went ahead and voted for. And I'd be interested to see how your guys' opinions have actually changed. So let me know down below who you think deserves to make it into the championship team of the season. And also, who do you think has been your club's best player this season? Let me know down below. Myself as a Preston fan, there's quite a few actually that are in contention for our player of the season, but for me personally, I'd probably give it to Ben Davis. I'd be interested to hear what other Preston fans would have to say. But without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and look at the team of the season. So here, guys, this is what the team of the season has been announced as, and I'm not too sure what to think of it, to be completely honest. The first thing that stands out to me when I'm looking at this team is there's no Cardiff players in this team, which I just find absolutely ridiculous, of course. The team that is currently sat second in the championship with the best defensive record in the championship, none of their players have managed to make it into this, which I think is absolutely baffling. And so what I thought we'd do is I'll go through this team and rectify who I think deserves their place in the team and other players who perhaps don't. So starting out in goal, we have John Ruddy. Now, I'm not sure what Wolves fans think of this, but in my opinion, he shouldn't be in that team, of course. Wolves this season have had a very good defensive record. I believe they got the second best currently in the league, just behind Cardiff. So it's understandable to see why some people may have put him in there, but realistically, I think Wolves' great defensive record, it's down to their defence they've had this season, not necessarily John Ruddy. You know, whenever I watched a Wolves game, Ruddy's always sort of unsettled me whenever I've watched him play. You know, especially with long balls going into the box, he doesn't really seem to fill me with confidence whenever I do watch him, and I can think of at least 3 goalkeepers who deserve their place in this team over him. In my opinion, Sam Johnson, Scott Carson, and Bilkowski from Ipswich all deserve a place in this team over John Ruddy. That's just my opinion. What do you guys think? I must also say as well, before we move on in this team, that loan players were actually ineligible to go ahead and make it into this. I'm not sure why, but of course that does go ahead and exclude some, you know, pretty good players in the championship this year. You know, the likes of Jota and Willy Bolly weren't able to make it into this team as they are not eligible for selection for some reason. In our right back, we then had Ryan Fredericks, I think that it's a pretty solid shout. I think he has had a very good season for Fulham, although I probably wouldn't include him in my team at this point in time. I'd probably have Doherty from Wolves in ahead of him. I just think he's had probably a bit of a better season, to be honest. Fredericks, don't get me wrong, he's been absolutely terrific for Fulham, especially in the last probably 3 months or so. He's been absolutely fantastic for them. He gives them a great option on that right-hand side, making the overlapping runs. In my opinion, Doherty's just had a bit of a better year, though. Then we move on into our centre-backs, and this is where it does start to get very controversial, really. I'm not going to lie about that. First of all, we have Connor Cody in there. I think that's a solid shout. He's impressed me this year, you know. Him as a ball-playing centre-back, you know, some of the passes he's been able to pick out this season has just been absolutely ridiculous, really. So I don't have too many complaints about that. I think he probably does deserve his place in this team. But then we move on into John Terry, and how John Terry's been able to force his way into this team, I am absolutely baffled by. Don't get me wrong, he has had a very solid season with Aston Villa, but come on, there's so many more players who deserve their place in this team over John Terry. I'd even argue that Terry's not even been the best centre-back at Villa this season. I'd probably say, in my opinion, that James Chester would deserve his place in this team over John Terry. I mean, Terry was missing for over a month of the season through injury, but even so, he's still been able to go ahead and make his way into this team. In my opinion, though, a Cardiff defender has to be in this team. They've got the best defensive record this season, and how someone like Morrison or Bamba isn't in this team is just absolutely crazy to me. They are probably one of the best centre-back partnerships in the Championship this season, and for neither of them to make it in is pretty baffling. In at left-back, we then have Ryan Sessegnon. This one not really coming as a shock, really. The only controversial thing about this is, I mean, he's not a left-back, is he, realistically? The best football Ryan Sessegnon has played this season has been as a left winger, so he probably should be a winger in this team, but even so, you can't really have any complaints about him. He's just been absolutely crazy this year. Then as our midfield three, we once again got another pick which I'm not too sure about. Ruben Neves in there undoubtedly deserves his place in this team. You know, whenever I've watched Wolves play, he's just that player that makes them tick along, really. He dictates the tempo of every game, really, and his passing ability is just a joke, you know. He's just way too good for the Championship. James Maddison, I think he deserves his place in this team as well. In what has been quite a mediocre season for Norwich, he's been able to stand out for them and has single-handedly won them a lot of games this season, and has scored some absolute bangers as well. Then we move on though to Tom Cairney, and with Tom Cairney, I'm not too sure about this pick either. If this team was based on the last 2 months of the season, then Tom Cairney probably would deserve his place in this team, but we're judging it from the start of the season up until now. I'm not sure Cairney deserves his place in this team. If the team was based on ability alone and not on how they've performed this season, then Tom Cairney gets in this team, no doubt about that. You know, last season he was probably the best player in the Championship. This season though, he's only gone ahead and delivered 4 goals and 4 assists, I believe. So to be getting into this team, I can think of a couple of players who I would probably pick over him. Don't get me wrong, he's had a good season, but does he deserve his place in the team? I'm not so sure. You know, it's also interesting to see that Millwall have no players in this team for how good they've been. You know, I'd argue a player like George Saville perhaps deserves his place in this team over the likes of someone like Tom Cairney, but they went ahead and selected Tom Cairney. What do you guys think? Does he deserve his place in the team? And then the forward three, which they went ahead and selected, we had Bobby Reid in there. Yeah, I'll accept that. You know, he has had a very good season. Not a lot of people were anticipating Bobby Reid to do much this season, really, you know, but for Bristol City, he has been absolutely terrific. He's gone ahead and bagged 17 goals for them and 5 assists as well. So fair play, he probably does deserve his place in this team. The same with Mate Vidra as well. He's currently the top scorer in the Championship with 18 goals. Lately, some of his goals have seemingly dried up, really, but we are judging this over the course of the whole of the season, and Vidra does deserve his place in the team. And then we have Albert Adoma. So, of course, with loan players not being able to be in this team for some reason, if they were, then for me, Jota has to be in this team, but as they aren't, Adoma probably does deserve his place in this team, really, you know. Looking over Aston Villa's season, they definitely didn't get off to the best of starts, and realistically, the first month or so, the only player who was really making them tick was Albert Adoma. So far this season, he's gone ahead and bagged 14 goals for them and probably does deserve his place in this team. So as you can see there is the full team of the season this year. Also as well, the manager of the season has been announced as Neil Warnock, and yeah, I do agree with that. I think that's fair. But as a team as a whole, I'm not so sure about it, guys. So let me know in the comments down below, do you agree with the team of the season which has been selected? I think there's a couple of dodgy shouts in there, but I'd be interested to see what you guys go ahead and say. Leave it down below, who do you think should make it in? But guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you subscribe for some regular championship content. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.